Many people struggle with emotional eating, but I wonder, is it really emotional eating that is the problem? In this video, I'm going to tell you one really important thing that I think has the potential to massively change how we think about emotional eating. Hi, my name is Vanya Fatidis. I'm from Peaceful Eating, where I help people all over the world let go of the food rules, come back to a place of being able to trust their own bodies and reclaim their innate worthiness so that they can live their lives unapologetically and do the things that really matter to them deeply. I used to think about myself as an emotional eater. If I was happy, sad, lonely, hurt, ashamed, devastated, hopeless, I would eat. In fact, even in the face of really strong, so-called positive emotions, I would find myself eating. I spent a really long time trying to understand why this was. I didn't have a history of any kind of trauma. I grew up in a safe environment, knowing that I was loved. Yes, sure, my emotions were not always taken into account. Sometimes they were overridden or discounted. But I knew that I mattered and that my feelings mattered. So why was I having this problem with emotional eating? So today I want to tell you this one really important thing that really changed everything for me, and here it is. We need to look at the whole topic of emotional eating through the lens of weight control. And there are three key things that are important to know here. The first is that when we're trying to control our weight, what we're doing is taking our cues for eating from our conscious mind. We call it putting it under conscious cognitive control, rather than taking our cues from our bodies. The second important thing to know is when we are trying to lose weight or trying to control our weight, we could possibly be going hungry. Now, this is going to impact whether or not you actually are going hungry or not, but being hungry is going to make it way worse. The third important thing is that when we are trying to control our weight, we become hyper-focused on food. Why? Because any real or perceived deprivation when it comes to food is interpreted by our brains as a threat to our survival. And what it does as a result of this is become hyper-focused on food and primed to eat. So these three things are really, really important to keep in mind. Now, what happens in the face of strong emotions is that it depletes our cognitive conscious control. So then what happens is that your decisions for eating are no longer within your conscious cognitive control, right? Because that's been depleted in the face of the strong emotions. So then what you find happening is because you're hungry and because you're hyper-focused on food and primed to eat, and because you've had either physical and or mental deprivation when it comes to food, cutting out certain types of food, thinking about certain types of foods as bad and that you should stay away from them, you're going to be much more likely to eat because you're disinhibited, right? You no longer have that kind of inhibition that you would normally have when your cues for eating are under your conscious cognitive control. Does that make sense? So then what happens is what looks like emotional eating, but actually perhaps what it is instead is eating in response to deprivation in the face of strong emotions. So does that mean that emotional eating doesn't then exist? Well, no. In fact, emotional eating is a very normal part of being a human being. We eat for joy, right? We eat at celebrations. We don't always eat just because we're hungry, and it's perfectly okay and perfectly normal. Food brings us comfort, and that's fine. What happened for me though, when I really let go of trying to lose weight, when I stopped making myself go hungry, when I ate enough consistently, and when I really let go of the whole project of trying to control my weight, the emotional eating actually just disappeared. It's very, very, very occasionally now that I will eat in response to very strong emotions. It does happen every now and again, but because I'm not trying to control my weight, it happens and I just move on. There's no backlash effect that happens. And I find the same with the people who come to me for help with emotional eating. Once they really disentangle from trying to control their weight, the emotional eating just really resolves itself. So does that mean that there isn't any room then to really be working on our emotions? Of course not. Really, working on emotions, learning how to be with our emotions, knowing how to express our emotions, knowing how to accept our emotions as things, as events that arise and pass. Of course, that's important, but not so that we might be losing weight or as a way to try and maintain a lower weight, because any of that is going to have a backlash effect. I can promise you that. But really, instead, it's so that you can live a whole, juicy, and satisfying life. And who doesn't want that? So if you'd like to know more about how to live a life of peace with food, head over to my website, www.peacefuleating.co.uk/subscribe, where you can get instant access to my ebook, A Guide to Peaceful Eating. That's peacefuleating.co.uk/subscribe. Bye for now.